Hello, hello. You may be on mute, Sean.
I am,
There it
but I'm
is.
not now.
Nope.
I'm going to say things now.
Do it. Let us
You're going
know.
to hear them.
Okay.
Congratulations for being on time despite your concerns.
Yeah, with the MTA because it's a day that ends in Y, you never know. And so yeah, today everything ran like it should. It's just that I can't assume being in Borough Hall at 5:40 p.m. that I'll get home at 6:10. I should, but that's a dangerous assumption. And so that's why I went up. Here it is, and then
Yeah, no, I appreciate the heads up and just being prepared for the possibility. Joanne was going to take it, but I just now texted her and said, never mind. He is here and ready.
yep, cool. And yeah, I'm completely cool with that. We'll flip the order of things, and then
Yeah.
yep, I'm cool with that.
I like, the young people going first in case the next thing goes long. Although CEC seems like they'll have a pretty short presentation.
Okay.
But I feel like CEC should hear from youth anyway, because those are the people
hmm
on whose behalf they're doing their program. So
Yep,
let
I
them
agree with that.
listen. Let them listen. As a great philosopher once said, I
hmm
believe that children are our future.
Yep, I believe that.
Teach them well and let them lead the way.
Yep, that's true. I support that 100%.
um, okay. Joanne's glad that it's just you and me, right? Joanne's glad that she's off the hook because she said it gives her a minute to eat and she's starving.
Yeah, food. Let her know. Carl says food is life, and life is food, and he agrees. And tell
I
her in
remember
that
those
order.
days too, though. It was like 3 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm on the screen at a meeting that I kind of have to be present. I can't just sort of like turn off my screen and eat and just listen.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like sneaking in little bites of cheese and snow peas. like,
So you're a rabbit on a Zoom call. That's what you're saying.
like, um,
Oh, geez.
oh.
It's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm just eating my charcuterie board while listening to you tell me about the theory of action. That's all I'm doing. Charcuterie board theory of action. Let's do
I
it.
didn't have a container, so I put my salad in a baggie, thinking I'd pour it into a bowl and eat like
Yeah,
a human being.
yeah. I got you. I got you.
And
I
since I
got
didn't get there, I'm like reaching into a plastic bag to just like eat lettuce. Oh,
you. It
lunch of
was
champions right there. Hi,
exactly.
Glenn.
It was like what?
Good evening.
Give me a second, actually. So we've been joking with Joanne and food, but I'm actually gonna get myself a little charcuterie board nibble myself
Okay.
before we get things started.
I know you just got home. Do that.
I will. I will. I'll be right back.
Glenn, are you coming to the Congresswoman's town hall on Thursday?
Well, I just saw that a little while ago, and I am considering it, but we leave on Friday, so I have to see, where I am on that. If I
Okay.
can.
I'll keep my fingers crossed that you can at least poke your head in
Okay.
a bit. The concern I have is that a lot of the board members who were just reappointed by Borough Hall have been told they have to come to a swearing in, and I'm trying to get a little bit of flexibility on the mandatory attendance.
Is that
Given
swearing
that
in? Is that
this was
Thursday
scheduled
night?
before that. Sorry?
Is that swearing in Thursday?
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly it. Like that swearing in is 6 to 8 p.m. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like I was thinking of not going, and then it said, "Oh, like Sean said, it said all reappointees have to go." I'm like, "All right," and then I
Well,
saw the email.
I'm gonna send a message out. I'm gonna work with Joanne and possibly send a message out to board members tomorrow saying that this really is a choice that you can make, and Borough Hall is now aware that there is a conflict that was scheduled prior to them. And they never sent the board, any communication as to this being the date.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I was told is, there's been a lot of communication directly to board members, especially new appointees, without looping in the office, and then it just sort of leaves us
Yeah.
hanging. So
Mhm.
because of that, we're going to try to just allow people to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Okay. Let me know.
Or do the thing that you think, like, we have, Benjamin is here. I believe that he is a new board member. Hello. And certainly new board members should go to Borough Hall and take advantage of any trainings and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
veterans should, might want to exercise a choice, but I will sort it all out with B Hall
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Let us know. Let us know how that goes, because if that breaks in the favor of reappointees being able to make a choice, then yeah, I would RSVP myself from that one and go to the town hall instead. Like, that choice is easy for me. It's just given the mandatory part. But let me know how that goes.
Understood, yeah.
That's right.
Benjamin, I'm Sean Campbell. I'm the district manager at CB14. And I look forward to working with you. Did I
Likewise,
pronounce
very
your name
excited to be a
correctly? And
part of it.
is that how you go by?
Yes, that is. You can call me Ben. It's much easier.
Oh, Benjamin isn't hard.
I'll take it.
Okay. Well, we've got a couple more minutes and our presenters aren't here yet, but Carl, when they pop in, we'll notice, but also we're not recording yet. So when you are ready to call it all systems go, let me know. Give me a 30-second warning so I can hit the record.
Will do. I'll definitely do that.
We are
So-
streaming.
Okay, no problems. We're waiting for. I'm looking at the agenda. We're waiting for Sanda, right? Like, that's going to be our number one. So,
Yeah.
okay, no problems. Cool.
Hi, it's Joe Dweck. I just wanted to call in to congratulate you, Carl Henry, and to Dwayne, and to Sean and everybody. Unbelievable work. This is unique in the city. This is, you're carrying on. Thousands and thousands of lives have been changed because of you and Jonathan before you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that, man. You bring very good tidings. I feel like I sometimes believe in coincidence and sometimes I don't. And so, because I'm not a fan of Boston sports teams, I believe because the Boston Bruins lost last night in Game 7, the sun is shining. And because the sun is shining, that happens to be how come Joe Dweck gave such a wonderful shout out to the team. So, Joe, I look at all these timelines converging and I thank you.
Oh,
My
you
dear
deserve
friend,
it.
Father Michael Perry has a saying that coincidences are God's way of being anonymous.
I like that one.
Oh, you deserve the accolades. And thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Okay.
So let's see. So I see. Give me a second here. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so I do see we have one of our folks here from the NYC Youth Agenda and also Why Vote. So I see we have Sonia. So Sonia, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all. My
Excellent.
colleagues should be joining shortly.
Okay, excellent. All right, and so Sonia, just a quick heads up for you while we wait for your colleagues to join us. So once the rest of your colleagues are here, then I'm going to give Sean, who's the district manager of our community board, the heads up to start recording. And about 30 seconds after that, then she'll start the recording. I'll do an intro, and then I'll turn it over to your group to present on the topic that you were going to present on. Okay? Awesome.
What now? Uh-huh.
So I see we have some more people joining us, which is great. So Anthony, hey, good evening. How are you?
Hey, hi everybody. Good evening.
Awesome, awesome. So Anthony, quick heads up for you. And so the order of
Carl, you're muted, I believe.
Hey, Carl, you muted yourself.
Oh,
Oh shoot, I was my own villain. I apologize. And so yeah, Anthony, short story, the agenda, we're gonna flip the order a little bit. And so first what we're gonna have is a presentation workshop on the New York City youth agenda. And then after they present, then we'll have you and your colleagues present on the youth engagement for community boards and participatory budgeting. Okay?
perfect. Thank you guys.
No problem. Thank you very much as well too. So let me just see what else we have here.
Are all of the presenters here for our first item?
I see most of
Anna,
them. I'm
is that your whole
seeing.
team?
I see Sanda. Let me know if I pronounce your name wrong. Is it Sanda or Sanda? How do I pronounce it?
It is Sanda, and
Okay.
it's, I believe all of our youth presenters except Alina are here. But here's Alina. So yes, they're all here.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And so then, great. We're all here. Excellent. And so, Sean, could you please get ready to start the recording?
Done.
Okay. So, folks, good evening. Happy Monday. I hope the weekend treated you well and you stayed dry because yesterday was a legit rainstorm. And so this is Community Board 14. This is our May 1st committee meeting of Education, Youth Services, and Libraries Committee. And so I'm Carl. I'm a committee co-chair. And there's a few things that we have on today's pretty packed agenda. So one of them is a presentation on the New York City Youth Agenda. And then after that, we're going to have a presentation on youth engagement for community boards and participatory budgeting. And then after that, we're going to have a debrief on the April 3rd 60th annual youth conference that our community board hosted. And so and then after that, we also have like other / miscellaneous business. And so before we kick things off, I just want to call out, we have Sharon, I believe, Sharon, remind me again, do I pronounce your name Fuchs? If I mispronounced it, I apologize.
Maybe she stepped away, Carl. It's Sharon Fuchs.
Okay, Sharon Fuchs,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So yes, so we just want to say hi and thank you for coming in, on behalf of Senator Simcha, right? And so thank you very much for doing that. Okay. And so with that being said, I would now turn it over to Sanda and the rest of the group.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carl. It is great to be here with all of you tonight on this less rainy night. And we really appreciate the opportunity from CB14 to be here with you. So I am going to pass the mic to representatives from the NYC Youth Agenda Youth Steering Committee. Tonight, they will be speaking less about the NYC Youth Agenda and more about the working group that they are part of, which is about intergenerational alliances to support community boards in becoming more sort of youth friendly, youth forward, youth focused. They are tremendous representatives of that. And this is going to be a very interactive workshop. We would ideally have more time, but we're happy for the 30 minutes we have. And I will pass to Mukulan, Jolina, Sonia, and Alina. And we also have Tina with the NYC Youth Agenda Steering Committee here with us tonight.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. We're going to start with brief introductions. My name is Alina. I am a senior in High School of Economics and Finance. This is my first year with steering committee and working with community boards, but I'm so happy to be here with all of you and excited for our presentation.
My name is Sonia, and I'm a junior at Brooklyn Technical High School, and it's also my first year with NYC Youth Agenda, also part of the Community Boards Working Group.
Hello, my name is Jolene Jimenez. I am a senior at Frank Sinatra School of the Arts. I am having like some computer problems right now, so if I happen to lag, my apologies. But this is my second year with the Youth Agenda, and it's our second year as the Youth Agenda. So I've been here since the kind of the beginning of our work, and I also work in the community boards sector and in the issue group. I work specifically with education equity, along with Sonia.
Hi everyone, my name is Mukil Kumar. I'm a junior at Hunter College High School, and I'm also a part of the NYC Youth Agenda. I've been on it for 2 years, and I'm excited for the workshop today. So, Alina, we'll get it started.
So we wanted to start with the quick icebreaker just to kick things off. And there are two questions that we wanted to ask you guys. I'm going to start with the second one, actually, that is on the presentation. We know that you hosted the youth conference at Brooklyn College, and we really wanted to hear how did that event go? What were some challenges, successes? How did it feel working with youth? And what were some of your takeaways? And feel free to just unmute yourself, share. Anyone wants to go first?
Carl, I'll jump in on this just to give you a background, this was our 16th annual youth conference. And this year was the first year that it came back to Brooklyn College since we paused the regular program for due to COVID. So it went well. There were 50 some organizations, agencies, and job providers, and 400 to 500 young people between the ages of 14 and 21. Our numbers were only slightly below what they had been when they peaked prior to COVID. So it signaled that we're back on track to bring this to more like to 500 to 600 young people at every event, with the goal of next year of making sure that the NYC Youth Agenda is prominently featured with a table up front.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone has, I see Joanne, I think, has a hand up. So if you want to share, just jump in.
Hi. Well, first I want to say you are all high schoolers and you are so poised. So let me say, I am so impressed. I'm Joanne Brown, Chair of Community Board 14. With regards to challenges and successes, the attendance to our workshops was a little lacking, but I get it because apparently our youth wants to be active. And on the same note, our success was the mock interviews, and those are very interactive. So we're getting a better sense of how the programming should go, and maybe a little bit more dedication to the mock interviews and less dedication to the workshops. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I hear about the challenges, and today we really want to talk to you guys about like how to bring youth into participating in all those things. So we're gonna jump into the second question, and this one is to really start us off into the conversations that we're gonna have next. So what do you guys think? What percentage of community board members would you guess are under the age of 25 in New York City? Again, feel free to just unmute yourself.
Alina, question for you. That question. So this is Carl. So the question about the percentage of youth under the age of 25. Do you mean by borough, like just borough of Brooklyn, or do you mean like a citywide average? Okay,
Generally, yes, citywide.
Okay, got you. I'm gonna guess less than 5%.
Yeah, I put 5% as well.
Any other guesses? And you guys are right. It's actually the number is actually pretty low. And that's why we're here today, because we really want to talk to community boards and share our insight on how to implement more youth in the community boards. To be more specific, the statistic is less than 5%. So you guys can imagine that along citywide how little youth is engaged in community boards. So I will pass it on to, I believe, Sonia, who's gonna continue with the presentation. Thank you.
This is actually Jolina.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lena. And actually, to be more specific about that stat, it's less than 1% of members citywide that are underneath the age of 25, which is a little shocking since we know the age that you can join a community board is as low as 16. So your guesses were pretty good, but even more low. So that's something we want to talk about today. And I just wanted to open some discussion on issues that y'all care about since this is our first time meeting everyone. And we just wanted to know what issues you feel connect you to young people since you seem to be very engaged, at least relative to most other community boards, with your youth population. So, are there any political, social issues that you feel maybe you think the youth of today care about, or where you work specifically with youth? Please feel free to unmute yourselves.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Dwayne Joseph. Forgive me, I'm in an elevator right now. I think one of the things that we have a challenge with our youth engagement is the fact that a lot of our young people are looking for job readiness programming and opportunities. And, as a board, we don't really offer that. We try to do it through our youth conference with the mock interviews, but a lot of the young people that I spoke to, said that what they were looking for were jobs, but they were looking for things like how to write a resume, what etiquette around work is, where do they go to look for jobs, that sort of thing. So I think as a board we can probably engage a little bit more that way by highlighting some of the providers and services that the community organizations offer. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. I see that it seems like a lot of y'all are interested in career readiness. At least that's what I gathered from what you said, and the initiatives that you do, which is definitely very important to youth. That's something that's important to me. Are there any issues that y'all, maybe even not as a community board, but personally feel relate to youth on, whether that be maybe environmentalism or education?
Go ahead, Florencia, your hand was up first, and then Liz Denise put a hand up after.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's so great to see you, the youth participating. And some of the groups that I deal with, it depends. There are youths that are interested in knowing how to handle finances. That's one, like it's like getting into adulthood, or so being able to, you know, they like some of the youth that we deal with at my church. They wanted to know, how do you, how do they go about having their accounts, uh, making investments, just paying bills. Those are some of the things that some of them have been interested in. There are others that are interested in dating, and so would like counseling on that in terms of what do they look for, what are red flags, what should they do, what shouldn't they do, and just being prepared. And in terms of education, there are those that we've taken on trips to visit other colleges so they can have a wider range of, just instead of local colleges for some, and some still, even after visiting, going out of state, they would still select schools here, you know. So those are some of the issues that um, and having um, cleaner air, more green spaces, and offhand, those are some of the things that I can think of right now. But I'll give someone else an opportunity.
I would say that also, I'm Elizabeth Denny's another board member, that, you know, I know a lot of youth who are really interested in transit and street safety and getting around in greener modes of transportation through organizing I do there. But I think also generally it just seems like, you know, youth today are just like really plugged into a lot of issues, and most any issue is something that you can easily find someone who cares about it in the younger generations. And so I think that's really cool.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to see that y'all engage in such a wide variety of issues and with different youth across the city. This is really great to hear. For the purposes of timing, I think we're gonna move past the short discussion, but don't worry, we'll have more time to talk. Mukalan, could you move to the next slide? Thank you. So now we're just going to talk about the reason why youth make up such a small percentage of community board members, specifically less than 1%. And I know these reasons are probably not news to y'all, but there's just a lot of structural things in the way that community boards are typically. Oops, sorry. I think I lagged. But there's some structural things in the way that community boards are typically ran that serve as barriers for a lot of young people. And some of the ones that we gathered from our own experience and research are meeting times, that being too early after the time school ends, so youth are not able to participate in other extracurriculars, or too late to the point where they may not be able to get the proper amount of sleep. I know accommodating young people who have maybe more packed schedules academically is a little bit difficult, but that's something that we've heard a lot. The application process is another one. A lot of young people are confused on how exactly to do it and just don't really have connections with people who can help them through the process. So that's one. And then the third thing is isolation on the boards. This refers to the fact that the culture in community boards as a whole, but especially some specific community boards, they may not be accommodating to young people in terms of the way that they talk, or the fourth thing that we see, the jargon that's used. It may just feel like a very hostile situation at some points. We're really glad this is not one of those community boards. We're super glad to be here, and everyone has been so welcoming, but we've also had some experiences where that's not the case. So those are just things that we've dealt with, and we want to know if there's anything else that y'all can think of as barriers for young people. And obviously there's ones of, I see a hand, Brooklyn.
Yeah, sorry, I should change that. It's Sean Campbell, the DM from CB14. But
Sorry, no
just
problem.
you know, as a point of clarification, the boards don't appoint their own members. That goes through Borough Hall. And I think as one of the barriers to entry might be the kind of lapse that can occur between Borough Hall and the board appointment process. So it's something that I'm working to bridge between this board and Borough Hall. But you know, I think that the general public doesn't, we get calls all the time about, you know, hey, I want to apply to your board, and then we have to refer them to Borough Hall. So I think sometimes so the complication of that process, that like 50% of our board members are nominated by a council member who overlaps with Borough Hall, but then the appointments are at Borough Hall. But you still can contact the community board office for, you know, it just is, it's a lot of different ways in. So I think better communication, and youth community members aren't going to apply generally out of the blue. I think it's once they're engaged with the community board and then are encouraged to apply is when we have a better chance of gaining a younger board member.
For sure. I definitely echo all of that. I actually have a family member, he's 21, that was just like placed on a community board in Brooklyn, and he struggles for about like a year trying to work through all the processes of meeting all the people that he had to meet to get on the board. And he's involved in politics as well in college, and that was a struggle for him. So I could imagine that as a younger high school student, especially. We've actually had Sonia on a community board before, so she can attest to those struggles as well. And I think we can move on. I'm not sure who's doing the next slide.
Jolena, quick heads up before we do. I see Anthony. Anthony, you had your hand up. did you have something for that section?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I just wanted to add that, I was a member of the community board, not this one, Community Board 9 in Manhattan, which is Harlem, for 6 years, and I was, in your situation, and we could have used was, or what I could have used, speaking for myself, was kind of a mentorship program, like someone older to guide me. And I did have that informally in some ways, but the first year or two was really just kind of observing and watching from the back and just trying to learn the acronyms and how the meeting ran and who was who, getting to know people. So definitely echo what's listed here.
For sure. We actually have had a lot of people from different community boards express these struggles, and even some people propose some sort of mentorship pipeline with young people to more experienced board members. So I'm really glad to hear that, and that's something we definitely like to speak about a little later. So thank you for bringing that up. I guess, Muglan, you could pass it to the next slide.
Okay, so it seems like you all understand that young people are important on community boards. So I'll go through this pretty quickly, but some reasons that your community board should want to engage with people is that we have unique experiences when it comes to education, youth services, and mental health, because we interact with those systems every day. And we have different perspectives in general, just growing up with different circumstances, particularly with the COVID-19 pandemic. As students, we have a unique experience that can provide interesting context to your discussions. I think that is all, unless anyone has any questions or comments. We could move on to the next slide.
Okay, so now moving into the final part of our mini workshop. We wanted to have an open discussion with you guys. We were gonna type out a checklist, but I think we can just do it as a discussion and send us taking notes. But I didn't know, I can't see your faces, but I know someone brought up the mentorship program idea. And as Jolena said, we've had other people in other workshops bring up a solution like a buddy system that could be implemented in either this community board or other community boards. So we want to open the floor up to ideas like that to make your community board more accessible to youth. And Jolena, could you call on people because I can't see anyone?
Yeah, I see. Anthony, your hand is raised again.
Yeah, definitely. One other idea I would like to propose is maybe like a new member packet or something with like a how-to guide, like a shorthand for things, like acronym guide, like just thinking back on my experience, an acronym guide, kind of like how to write a letter of support, a resolution, what is this, structure, like a pyramid structure of how it's organized, and brief history, just like a little packet or something would have been helpful, in addition to like that buddy system idea that was referenced.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we also, in part of our work with the New York City Civic Engagement Commission, we created an online resource kit that's going to go up on their website. That's accessible to both youth and community board members. And you brought up different specific instances of specific things that you need to know when you're on a community board that would be really useful to get on that resource kit and try to give that out to youth and young members. Anyone else? Jolena, could you call again?
Yeah, I don't know if I see anyone else their hand up.
I believe Duane, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, has their hand up.
I think that might be Dwayne Joseph.
Yeah, sorry for mispronouncing.
No worries. Happens all the time. I think one of the ways we can engage is, and we've done it in the past, is by creating a youth council. We've attempted to create youth councils on different occasions in the past, and have been really helpful to the young people that are involved in them, because they get a sense of what board life is like, what the kind of work that we do, that sort of thing, and you hope in the end that it results in them wanting to become full board members at some point. or engaging with the board a lot more than they would normally. One of the things we had to learn through that process is just how full a young person's agenda is these days. So it's something that I think we should look at. And I also want to say that and part of that resource kit, and I'm glad that Anthony brought this up, and you guys mentioned that you help create a resource kit. You should consider explaining what a community board is and what its role is fundamentally. I've had that conversation with young people that I've mentored. Like, one of the first things that I've had young people do is like the simple question, what is a community board? And they had to find their local community board and find out what the committees were on their community board. So, I mean, even as adults out here that don't know what community boards do, and I think young people, because they're already in a space where they're learning every day, not to say adults aren't, but they're actively learning in school every day and doing research. It's an opportunity for them to learn what it is before they formally engage.
Yeah, so you brought up a lot of great points there. I think on the resource kit point, I think that our resource kit did have a section explaining that, but I don't remember how in depth it was, so we could definitely keep working on that. And I wanted to inquire about your youth council, your suggestions about the youth council. Thinking about implementing that now, how did that work? Or how well did that work when it was in place? Because you said you've done it before, and why? What challenges have made your board stop instituting youth councils?
If I may, and Sean, you can jump in at any time here for historical context. But we have attempted to do a youth council at least since I've been a board member. I think now on 3 separate occasions. And we've gotten engagement. The challenges has been the schedule for the young people. Like you said, it is a challenge for some of them for later meetings. Their commitments with just their regular school day, after school programs, that sort of thing. It becomes a challenge. I think that's the biggest thing. We have tried to have our young people participate in different areas of the community board. So having them engage with different committees. I think the last youth council we had engaged primarily with the youth service committee to help develop an online strategy for our for our youth conference during COVID. Which worked out well as far as strategy was concerned, but we didn't have the level of engagement we thought we would.
Yeah, so I think that sort of connects to the second bullet point on this slide, like engagement and messaging opportunities to youth. And I know we're almost out of time, so if I can't really see if anyone else has their hand up, but
Galana, so sorry to interrupt. I think Elizabeth and Florencia had their hands up. Unless I'm
okay.
mistaken.
Yeah, I was just gonna quickly note too that there are, on top of just becoming a member of a board or becoming in a youth council, people can always just show up to meetings. Before, when I started getting engaged in this community board, I had just shown up to various meetings and committee meetings. And there's always opportunity to provide feedback. So maybe you can't commit to doing it the entire for an entire year or whatever it is, whatever, if you get appointed as a public member to a committee or something. I think our board typically has that for about a year cycle for committees. And then if you're a full board member, it's a 2-year commitment. You can still be involved by just showing up to meetings and providing perspective. And I think that our board does a really good job of making sure members of the public get a lot of time to share their feedback at our meetings.
Yeah. Hi. So I just wanted to say thanks. I just wanted to say that in addition to that, that the Community Board 14 does have a brochure that states what the board does, the role of the board, how the board works, and how you can join. Uh, the one that I have, was when Mayor de Blasio was the mayor, and the current mayor was the bar president of Brooklyn. However, I'm not sure if it's been updated, but I think it could be updated to include, instead of having organization, also for students, a section where students can sign up. It has on there a map which shows the confines of Community Board 14 in Brooklyn, and I think that could, some simple editing can help with, along with the jargon that's being used. That's something, and like Dwayne said before, there are adults. Many times I've shared these and, explained to folks within the community, about the community board, and outside of our community about community boards. So I think maybe, that's something. I don't know if Sean has anything to say, but these are usually given out at different events. Even at the U conference, there were pamphlets or brochures that explains the role of the community board. And Carl could also, they could jump in. Thank you. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
Laurencia. Yeah, those updates are noted, and the elected officials have been updated on the new print. But your ideas about gearing more toward youth, note taken. And just for the record, that brochure was designed by a group of college students, Pratt and the New School collaboration. So it should have something of a youth angle on it. At least I think in the design it has it's cool looking.
Yeah, so if any of you, I don't know, I can't see any of your faces, but if a few of you or one of you could send us those brochures and those resources, that would be great. For us to use as an example when we're creating online resource kits, or for us to use in our outreach. And I know we're out of time, so I'm gonna close this out really quickly.
Oh,
I
Mukalani.
think,
Oh,
yeah.
heads up for you. Heads up for you, real quick. We do have two last hands in the chat. We have Glenn Wool and then Joe Dweck, and so let's do Glenn and then Joe, and then those would be the questions for this part of tonight's committee meeting. Okay.
Thank you very much. I do know that recruiting people under 25 is a very difficult process. We've been having that problem with the CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, as well. But I do have one idea, and that is that our next job fair next year, maybe we should have a big sign, something along the lines of Community Board 14 would like to welcome you, a couple of sentences under it, and please talk to us about the application process. We do have a lot of people coming through, and as Sean pointed out, with little luck, we'll have 500 to 600 next year. Maybe we'll get a few folks interested. Okay, that was my idea. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Glenn. That was really awesome. And we got a bunch of people who, hear that idea. And so, Joe Dweck, you're up.
Thank you, Carl, and thank you, everybody. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name of one of our board members that hit upon what I wanted to say before. We really don't have a barrier, in that in fact, the last few years, to my knowledge, we have been underrepresented in the community board membership. We didn't have our full membership. We certainly, if anybody wants to be a member, as many of us did in the past, we audited the community board meetings, and then we approached our representatives saying that we would like to be on it. And I would recommend that to any youth or any person that is interested in the community board. The people certainly can't just get selected. They have to be sort of volunteer. They have to say we're interested. And I think that's part of the issue. And maybe that communication to youth that we are here and would like them to watch and see us is part of the problem. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
I'm just gonna jump in real quick for a second. I know that it is the one of the goals of the borough president in terms of appointees for community boards is to get more youth participation. And I also just want to clarify so that our presenters here know that I understand that the barriers that you're talking about are intrinsic. It's not anything that a community board is actually doing, creating a barrier, but I understand these intrinsic barriers and sort of being, perhaps watching some recordings of meetings, and I can understand how someone under the age of 25 might feel a little overwhelmed regarding the jargon and the pace in which it goes, because I was in my 40s when I joined a community board. I was a little overwhelmed too. And I just wanted to say that I am so thankful for this conversation. I hear some solutions and some ideas, and that I'm going to take back to the office with me. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to quickly get to next steps because we are a little over time for our portion, but it's great that we've had such a deep discussion and we have so many ideas floating around. I hope this has been helpful, and we hope to build a lasting relationship with your community board and other community boards, and to help youth both help with outreach to youth and help youth that do eventually make their way to community boards and help them succeed in their civic engagement. So if any of you want to work with us on your individual ideas or projects, or let us know how they're going in your community board once you implement them, indicate so on the post survey. I think it'll be sent out after this, and I can also put the link in the chat. And I think that is all we have, and I'll pass it on if Sanda wants to get any last words in before we head off.
My last words will just be thank you hugely to CB14 and the Youth Services Committee for having us here, for being so open-minded and invested in young people. We've taken copious notes and we'll look forward to following up with you. Also want to thank Alina, Jolina, Mukulan, Sonia, and Tina, who's been watching and is newer to the group, for this presentation. And also to raise up what Mukulan shared, that we have a feedback form we would love for you to take. It's very short, so it should just take a couple minutes so that we can think about additional ways to partner together beyond our time tonight. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for joining. We're glad that you all were able to come, and thank you very much for that presentation and the workshop. The questions are thorough. You're all asking the right questions, so keep pressing, and we appreciate you doing that. Keep going.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Anytime, folks. Good night.
You.
Okay, and so that was a great start to today's conversation. And so next up, Anthony, I see you by chance. Is Benjamin Solitaire on as well too?
I don't see him.
Okay. Okay. So question for you, like, would you like to ping him, or would you feel comfortable, basically pinging him and then starting, and then, if he joins, he joins? Or...
I'm comfortable doing the presentation. It's fine.
Okay. Cool.
Anthony is a solo act tonight. That's cool.
Yeah.
He has the hi-hat ready. He's ready. All right, cool. So then without further ado, I turn it over to Anthony, right? Community engagement specialist for the youth engagement for community boards and participatory budgeting portion of today's committee meeting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Let me share my screen. Quick. WebEx, Teams, Zoom is kind of like Google Meets. Learn all of these. Can everyone see my screen now?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, perfect. Let me just put this on slideshow. Wait for that to load. In the meantime, so my name is Anthony Carrion. I'm a community engagement specialist for the New York City Civic Engagement Commission. I actually cover the boroughs of Manhattan and the Bronx. I'm just sitting in for Evie today, who's our Brooklyn coordinator, to give just a very quick presentation on two topics which I'm sure you're well familiar with already. One is the upcoming elections, the June primaries, and second would be participatory budgeting, getting out the vote, and just previewing how that's going to look like. The voting actually starts May 10th, and I'll get into more detail about that towards the end of the presentation. Just very quickly, just want to start out about just who we are. I'm sure you're already familiar, but just in case anyone who's joined the committee, any public members, we're a commission that was established back in 2018 through a ballot initiative. I was actually one of the people who voted for this ballot initiative, so we're part of the city charter or constitution, and that makes us the first democratically elected commission. We have a couple of areas of focus. So we do something called Democracy NYC, which is kind of a get out the vote arm of our organization. We do language interpretation services at poll sites. We do participatory budgeting called the People's Money, which I'll describe in more detail in a little while, in the second half of the presentation. And then we do things like this, community partnerships and education workshops. So Democracy NYC, very quickly, voting teach-in. As I'm sure many of you are aware of, we do have quite a bit of people registered in New York City to vote, over 5 million people. But the problem is not enough people turning out to vote. So in the last gubernatorial election, 36% of the people turned out to vote. So part of our get out the vote strategy would be to do workshops like this, education, but also reminding people, that June is the primary election for specific parties, general election November, and special elections when an elected official leaves office. The primary election coming up, June 27th, and there'll be 9 days of early voting starting June 17th, from the 17th through the 25th. On the ballot this year, no federal, no state offices, just New York City offices. So we'll have judicial offices in the Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, primarily city council legislative districts. So not every district this year, only 29 districts. And then we'll have some, specific party positions to vote for as well. Registering to vote, you can vote with your New York State ID. To vote without your New York State ID, I will provide this presentation afterwards. If you want to download the registration form, mail it to your local Board of Elections office, and you could also check your status online or by calling the Board of Elections. Also want to highlight about becoming a poll worker. This is one of the things that at the youth conference that you invited us to attend. I wish we had highlighted more. This is a good learning lesson about employment opportunities for youth, especially those who are 17 years old, who can be a poll site worker. You do earn up to $2,750 for working up to 10 days. And there are ways to apply online, also downloading the application as well. And we want to encourage people to take advantage of this to get civically engaged. Finally, a question we get a lot, how do I research my candidates? There's a Meet the Candidates tab at NYC Votes. There's also the candidates website themselves, and also how do I research my ballot? So there's a What's on the Ballot tab at NYC Votes, and also Ballotpedia for general elections. You can look up your ballot by typing in your home address. Second part of the presentation, this is what I'm going to focus the remainder of my time on, would be the People's Money. What is participatory budgeting? Again, I'm sure this committee is well familiar with this, but just in case, any members of the public. It is a specific participatory budgeting process for the New York City Civic Engagement Commission. It's a citywide process where if you're 11 and older and a New York City resident, you get to decide how to spend $5 million of the mayor's expense funds. So you may have seen advertisements like this starting in mid-September. Like I mentioned, you can be 11 and older to vote in this process. And this is a democratic process at which people get to decide how to spend a portion of a public budget. Just very quickly, in terms of the phase, we did start off in the fall with idea generation. And then after Christmas, the new year, into the project vetting, creating the final ballot. And currently, we're about to enter into the voting phase, which begins May 10th through June 25th. And I'll describe in greater detail how you can vote in this process, and also what the projects on the ballot are. And finally, after voting finishes, the winning projects will get implemented in the following year, starting in upcoming July 2023. This is what participatory budgeting workshops look like, idea generation sessions. You may have participated in one. So examples of issues that have come up and have been addressed. So drug use in the neighborhood. A project idea for the people's money would be to propose either an event or a service or a program. So in this case, an event was proposed, such as organizing more Occupy the Corner events in the neighborhood. Another neighborhood issue, such as not enough activities in the parks. A project idea that was proposed would be more programming in the parks, such as tennis, karate, chess. These were the kinds of ideas we encountered. So to explain the people's money in a little bit greater detail, that $5 million is actually broken up into two funding allocations. So at first we have the borough-based process. So we have allocations of money that go to each of the 5 boroughs. So approximately $3,350,000. And you can see right here below the allocation by borough. So in Brooklyn, it's exactly $1 million. And these figures are weighted not just by the population, but also by poverty levels. So you can see like a borough like the Bronx has $800,000 to take that into account versus, a borough like Manhattan, which has just over $500,000. So this ensures equity. And so on the borough level, Brooklyn actually has 10 projects that are going to be on the ballot. I won't go into great detail into each of these. I'll just quickly go through them. Primarily, they're youth focused, which is very good for the topic we're discussing at hand. So the first project is about a parenting education program for single and teen parents. Second project is field trips for elementary and middle schoolers. Third project is a STEM program for Black and Latinx youth. Project number 4 is youth-run farm stands to fight food insecurity. Project number 5 is to strengthen mental health for 9 to 13-year-olds. The last 5 projects involve entrepreneurship program for formerly incarcerated youth. 7th project is a delivery of nutritious meals for homebound seniors. Project 8 is about intergenerational mentoring program. Project 9 is about a health benefit information for seniors. And finally, Project 10 is about self-defense and de-escalation classes for youth. So of these 10, you'll be able to vote for the top 3 that you want to see get the funding, the $1 million of funding. So the first allocation is for the borough. The second funding allocation is for what we call tree neighborhoods, or formerly called tree neighborhoods. TREE stands for Task Force on Racial Inclusion and Equity. We're now calling them equity neighborhoods. Tree neighborhoods, if you recall from the pandemic, were those who were most impacted during the COVID pandemic, and also, not surprisingly, also have not just the greatest health disparities, but also the largest socioeconomic disparities. So of the $5 billion, about 1.6 million will be allocated to the 33 equity neighborhoods. And that translates into $50,000 each. So in Community Board 14 in particular, we have Flatbush and East Flatbush adjacent, which are within your boundaries. So I'm just going to quickly go through the projects for this specific tree neighborhoods or equity neighborhoods. So for Flatbush, you'll be able to choose one out of the following 4 projects. There is an affordable healthcare forum that's been proposed, housing assistance for pregnant mothers, housing support for populations in need, and finally, a Flatbush Youth Council for learning, sorry, this is being hidden here. Flatbush Youth Council, a learning program. And finally, in East Flatbush, you'll be able to choose one out of the following 5. A community organizing for digital empowerment, a retiree youth after-school training, a community real estate investment program, mindset and nutrition shifts for physical and mental health, and a youth pathways to ownership and economic freedom project. So you'll be able to vote for one out of these 5 projects. So how does it work? So voting, as I mentioned, begins May 10th through June 25th, so a little over a month, about a month and a half. Eligibility, like I mentioned earlier, all you have to do is be 11 and older and reside in New York City. specifically in the borough of Brooklyn, if you want to vote in for Brooklyn projects, and specifically in Flatbush or East Flatbush, also if you want to also vote for the equity neighborhood projects. So you'll have two ballots. You'll have the borough and you'll have the equity neighborhood ballot, depending on your home address. And there'll be two ways to vote. So the first way to vote would be online. You can see on the right-hand side of my screen what the interface will look like. If you participated in the city council process a few weeks ago, then you're pretty well familiar. The steps in this are pretty much in line with that process. You'll choose your language, and then you'll be asked to give your zip code. In addition to that, you'll be asked to provide either a cell phone number or an email address to validate your ballot. You'll be sent a security code, and using that security code, you'll be able to vote for your borough projects and your tree projects or equity projects, if you do in fact live in an equity neighborhood. And after voting, you'll be asked to complete an optional survey. So very simple, pretty straightforward online process. One thing I do want to note here, the cell phone or the email is asked not just for verification purposes, but also for security purposes in terms of combating things like bots, and to ensure the integrity of the process. And finally, the second way you'll be able to vote will be through a paper ballot. So on the right-hand side, you see a sample of what this is going to look like. So again, starting May 10th, you'll have a couple of opportunities to vote in person. So there'll be voting sites in your neighborhood. There's a link here where you'll be able to find a voting site. And finally, we'll have pop-up voting events as well. So there'll be PB vote events that'll be happening, and our link here has those events as well. And again, if you want to help us spread the word, if you want to perhaps do an event of yourself, or you want us to participate, feel free to reach out to me, and we'd be happy to integrate Community Board 14 more into the PB process. And with that, I want to thank you for your time and take any questions you might have. Thank you so much.
Sweet. So Anthony, thank you very much for stopping by in that presentation. And so give me a second. Let me check the chat. So, okay. So first off, let's do Joanne Brown and then Glenn Wolin.
But Glenn was first. Let Glenn go. Glenn was first.
Okay. So in that case, then we'll flip the order. So Glenn, you go first, Joanne second.
Thank you very much. Nice presentation. You say the voting starts on May 10th and it continues until what date?
So June 25th.
June 25th. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I just want to clarify, are there going to be sites for people to fill out the ballot in paper? I think maybe I missed that or didn't catch it, or is it solely online?
No, that was the last slide. Voting in person, you'll have paper ballots, so there'll be voting sites. We do have partners like the New York Public Library, but there are other sites like on community campuses. So you'll be able to find that on our website. And in addition to those polling sites, there will be pop-up events, so they'll be updated pretty regularly as they're organized.
Thank you very much for that, Anthony. And so give me a second here. I see Dwayne, you have your hand up. You're up.
Yes, Anthony, thank you for this presentation. Curious to know if there is a digital toolkit that is available like by borough to help promote the projects in that particular borough, or maybe in that I'm sorry, I'm used to saying the tree neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I spent the whole year working on the ground with the tree neighborhood, so forgive me if I'm using the wrong terminology.
Yeah, so after this meeting, I'm going to send this via email, not just this presentation, but also ways to get involved. One of them is just simply to spread the word. So we'll have a social media toolkit for you to use. You can use the graphics there. You'll have email templates. There'll even be links to slide decks that you can use. So if you have a community organization and you want to do a presentation on this on your own behalf, you can feel free to do so. And in addition to that, the social media toolkit will also be providing Another way to get involved, which is either, if you want to host your own ballot box event or invite us to an event as well, to table, I'll send those links in a follow-up email.
And just, if I may, Carl, a follow-up question. What kind of lead time do you need for an organization to, for you guys to participate in an event? I'm thinking like we have a Church Avenue Street Festival coming up on Sunday. Shameless plug, by the way.
I have to check. Well, like I mentioned, Evie is actually the Brooklyn coordinator. I could go through her, but if not, we could check our availability. I'll let me put the link in the chat. This is our engagement request form. So if you want to fill it out, and we should get back to you by tomorrow and confirm our availability.
Thank you.
And this is for anybody who wants us to invite us, not just to table, but if you want us to do like a presentation like this, you can also fill this out. This is also a speaker request form as well. So it does a lot of many
Yeah,
things.
I'll send that out to the organizer of the street fair, to Lauren Collins or the precinct council, and then I'll also keep it handy for some of our other upcoming multi-block events, so that we get it off to other upcoming events in the community.
Appreciate that. Fantastic.
So Anthony, I have a question too. So like had been mentioned, like you had confirmed the voting window is May 10th to June 25th, right? And so because the primary election is Tuesday, June 27th, and there's those 9 days of early voting before, I'm just confirming. So this means that there will be a combination of physical or virtual sites where people can indicate what they're voting for, but this is not, this participatory budgeting piece, this is not something that people can vote for on the primary election ballots.
No, not on the primary election.
Okay.
ballots, no.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool. Awesome. And so a timeline question for you. So after after June 25th, when that window closes, do you know by any chance how much time people are projecting before they announce the results of those votes?
Well, that's that's like TBD to
Okay.
be determined right now. But
Mhm.
the implementation phase, as I saw, as I showed in the slide deck, was July 2023.
Yes.
So optimistically, would be within a 1-month turnaround period.
Okay.
But we're already gone through the REI process, request for expressions of interest. So we already have a list of potential community-based organizations that are ready to go to implement any one of these projects, should they be declared the winner after June 25th.
Understood. All right, cool. Got you. Thank you for that. And so give me a second. Let me check the chat. Let me see if there are any additional questions. And so
While you're doing that, Carl, I just want to thank.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to thank Anthony and CEC in general. I mean, you came here and you tailored this to the Youth Service Committee, but I know you've been out there, you've been to Borough Board, you've got a more general engagement presentation, and some of the stuff that you're doing seem directly responsive to some of the requests from community boards and district managers and the future of community board working groups. So just appreciate the responsiveness and the work to support the work that we're doing to continue our community outreach efforts. Thank you.
No, thank you guys. I more than understand. As I mentioned, I'm a former community board member myself for 6 years, so I understand like going to a committee meeting, general board meeting, like all the responsibilities that come into it. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Definitely awesome. And so seeing no other questions, and Sean, thank you very much for that shout out to Anthony and the CEC. Then I feel like this is a good place to end this portion of tonight's committee meeting. So Anthony, on behalf of CB14, thank you for showing up and participating in everything in the conversation so far, and also sharing that knowledge and some important information regarding what the CEC does, and also that piece of the participatory budgeting.
Thank you guys, and really enjoyed the first the youth NYC Youth Agenda presentation. I'm glad we switched around the presentation. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, man.
Okay. Guys, have a good night. Thank you.
You too as well. So then what this takes us to is the last part, which is conversation on our thoughts on how the April 3rd youth conference went, right? And so I paused for a minute because it's already May 1st, but hey, you know, what is time? And so basically, yeah, this is it's not open mic night, but it kind of is, right? And so basically things that people remember, you know, any suggestions, findings, questions, this is an open place for us to have that conversation. So I leave this open to whoever wants to. Oh, Elizabeth, bam. All right, let's go. You're up.
Sorry, hi. I think I did a few of the mock interviews, and I think it was really great. And I think that the presentation materials for like what people were expecting, as someone who's only given really weird, highly technical interviews and received a variety of interviews, but I never know exactly what's on the agenda for most use in our area. So I appreciated that. But I also just wanted to note that I'm not sure if people were suggested to bring a resume because only one of the many people I interviewed there or had a resume on them. So just something to consider, either having be a little clear, please bring your resume, or maybe even we could have a resume workshop, because the person who I did speak to actually had a really great resume, but had a lot of questions about it and just didn't really, I don't know if, they just had really excellent help from you. If, if that's a resource we can really help add to the community next year as well.
Got you. Thank you very much for that feedback. Appreciate that. And then give me a second because my internet on my end was acting a little funny, so I apologize. And so while I take care of that, Joanne, I see you have your hand up, so you're up.
All right. Mock interviews were amazing, and more of them. And if I may say, more celebrity mock interviewers, because the kids were, the youth were just, over the moon to be able to sit with an elected official and have a discussion. So, a little bit more maybe recruitment there. I'm just a little hesitant about the resume thing, only because I don't want it to be a barrier for someone to actually participate. But if we can bridge the gap, like resumes are welcome, and then we can maybe funnel them into an ongoing resume workshop upstairs, something that's a drop in, as opposed to maybe just have a myriad of topics in terms of the workshops. And you saw that I had made a comment about that in the first presentation. Have it just be sort of an ongoing sort of drop-in resume workshop where you talk about, it just sort of goes on and on, where they talk about the different styles and finding your worth in the words that you put, so on and so forth. But overall, I think it was really great. The kids were excited, and I'm looking forward to next year. And I think Sean and I had talked a little bit about this, that sort of trying to make sure that our presenters are all on one floor, so it's a little bit more of a flow, and then put the more ancillary things like the mock interview and things somewhere else. So that was just some brief post-mortem thoughts that we had. Thanks.
Got you. Thank you very much for sharing those thoughts, Joanne. Always appreciated. And so I see we have Dwayne. So Dwayne and then Sean. Let's do that.
I'm happy to yield my time to Sean because I think she was going to say something as a follow-up to Joanne. So Sean,
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, done. Let's go.
She's nodding no. I will say this. I echo some of what Joanne said in terms of the mock interviews. They're always really successful. I think the kids enjoy them because it's a lot of them is the first time they have a chance to have that experience. I do think that we probably shouldn't have the resume part of it or have resumes included as part of the mock interviews themselves. Maybe a separate workshop, offering an opportunity to resume review and feedback or just idea or ideation. Um, a lot of the young people, I think we need to do more. And Sean, you're going to kill me for this. We need to engage some of the local organizations to maybe do workshops in advance of the youth conference, so young people get an opportunity to come in more prepared, especially around networking and communicating. A lot of the feedback that I got from the young people I talked to is like they had no idea what to do. They thought they were going to come there and somebody was just going to say, "Hey, you look great, and you're going to get a job." And obviously, we all know that's not how it works. So, I would love to see us engage more with local organizations to maybe encourage them to offer workshops to the youth that we can help promote as a board, just making sure that they're within the framework of our mission as a board. But the other thing I wanted to point out, like the parents that came along were so excited about the youth conference and the opportunity that their student, their person had to develop, their job readiness skills. Like I talked to so many parents going up and down in the elevator, going to different workshops, just walking around. I think over the years we've added resources out, more like, resources for the entire family. And so some of the parents benefited. There was one young lady that was from Bangladesh and had just moved into the community in the last 30 days and was trying to get her footing. And she was really excited about it. Her mom, she was trying to translate for her mom, that who was really excited that we were doing this. And I think in the future we should, as much as this is a youth conference, we should try to do something to engage parents more so that they can bring their kid with them, and encourage them. But like the parents were really, I was actually I know parents like it, but these parents were like genuinely enthused and excited that we were doing this. Like one mom, like she brought all of her kids. There were like four of them, and only one of them was old enough to really engage with the presenters. But like the other three were excited for the potato chips and the apples. So I think it was a great turnout and a great job overall.
Yeah, I mean, the apples were really good this year. Um,
They were.
I had a few. The the thing sort of in terms of flow that Joanne mentioned, I think it's been a struggle every time we've done it, but this year it felt especially tricky to have an upstairs and a downstairs for tabling. And I would love to see the tabling all on one floor and then maybe use the upstairs room for the ancillary activities. We could divide the penthouse so that the mock interviews could be on one side and then maybe the drop-in resume writing workshop, which couples so well with that, on the other side. So we'll put a note about that to review that layout as we plan for next year's. It was, there were more parents this year than ever before, and it was just sort of interesting. I wondered to what extent that has to do with COVID. Like the young people coming of age to be out and about after school were at school online at home for the previous 2 years. So it just, some of the manifestations of post-COVID life kind of seemed apparent. And then the workshops have always, and Dwayne, I'm not a killer anyway, but even if I were, I wouldn't kill you for that idea because the idea of pre-recording workshops and having them somewhere on a loop, and then having them live on our website is an idea that kind of came up in the planning of this thing, but it was kind of too late, and we didn't have the staff in-house to kind of build the architecture that we needed to do for that. But we had talked to Mark Moss about it, and I think that's a very doable idea. The in-person workshops have always been a challenge. There's such great topics and really good ideas, and there's no reason why they're not of interest to the young people who are at the event. But I think that the youth community members have already been sitting as a rapt audience in a classroom all day and don't want to sit there and not be, as Joanne pointed out earlier in this evening, don't want to be, passive. They're there to be interactive. So I think a real rethinking of the workshops has to take place for next year, or else just an acceptance that we're going to do a lot of work putting together workshops and only 4 students are going to sit in on them. But I like the idea of doing them ahead of time and maybe recording them and then having them available both at the site and as a resource on the website after. But I was glad to see it was slightly down from previous years. I think that 2 or 3 years before COVID, we were more between 500 and 600, and this year we were closer to 400, 4 to 5, but closer to 4. But it's a rebuilding period, right? Overall, I was happy with it. We had 700. I'm almost glad we didn't. We had 730 some pre-registered youth, and I think it would have been a little bit. I would have been anxious if they'd all shown up.
Well, I mean, they all showed up around like I think it was around 4:30 to like 5:30. That's when they all strolled in, as expected. But
Yeah,
we
but not
handled it.
700. It was not
That's true.
700 of them.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And so next up, I do see Florencia. You have your hand up, so please share away.
Yes, great job. I echo what Dwayne said, parents. I spoke to parents and some of the youth as well myself, and they were very excited. This was really a great comeback after, you know, so to in keeping with the good work. In terms of what Sean said and Dwayne in regards to the workshop, uh, and listening to what the youth on here were saying earlier, I think it would be a great idea if you could work with them to formulate the workshops, like have them maybe be the spokesperson, like a different youth be for each different workshop that you'd like to present and, get their ideas and then maybe, you know, and have them as well share it out and just share it with youth groups and uh, anyway, it's a thought that was going through my head. So, okay, that's my piece. Thank you.
No, thank you for that, Florencia. And give me a second. Let me check. What else do I see? So Shahid, I see you have your hand up. So you're up.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Actually, last month I really missed my, I think, first monthly meeting, which is break my record last 7 years. So I'm really sorry for that. And I have received a lot of message from different community board members. Mr. Khan, we miss you. We miss you. This is first time, I think. So first thing is this. And second thing is that we discuss about in our Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce also about the community youth conference. So we were discussing that with interviewing, we also need to add some business setup or some startup, since there is a global entrepreneurship program, then startup and team up programs. So we also need to add something about startup business. My son is 18 and he has already started his online something ideas with supervision and these kind of things. So I think we are already doing a lot of work, unique programs, and I think we are one of the popular community board in Brooklyn. At least I met last month during Ramadan with a borough president and mayor. So we also discussed about community board 14. So I really appreciate everybody role, and especially our chairperson and our district manager, Sean Campbell, who is really uniting and have a lot of programs. And one thing that with the youth conference that actually we are still under the pressure of COVID-19. So we are still not come out from that fear. So I think this is also one of the reasons that we have 400 or 450, and parents are also asking children don't move a lot of things, a lot of training programs, or even colleges are still under pressure. So I think these all things are also need to address, but I think we are still under that pressure. And with these things, I think we are doing excellent and great work, and this is our success. Thank you.
So Shahid, always great to see you, and thank you very much for sharing. Your feedback as always appreciate it. So there's two things. Dwayne, I see your hand up, and so is it that you have a follow-up question, or you just forgot to put your hand down from the first time?
I do have a follow-up, but if you have something else you need to touch on, go feel free.
Sure. So I do. So what I want to just bring up is, so Deborah, I see you put in the chat your idea about like maybe flipping the order of the workshops. Like I know we're not committing to anything yet for next year, but could you give a little bit more insight into what you were thinking about with that comment?
Yeah, maybe have the workshops available to the youth first, so then they can get a better feel for the program instead of going to the big room with all the vendors and organizations and stuff. So that they would be more concentrated on learning how to do the interviews and stuff, and then go in and see the other ones. That's just my thought.
Got you. Thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate that. So then, give me a second. So then, Dwayne, yeah. So you can, go with your follow-up stuff.
Just to Sean and both Joanne and Sean mentioned this about the flow of the overall space. I know in the past, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Sean. Like we've used two spaces in the past, primarily, at least since I've been a board member, which Flatbush YMCA and the Subo building. Flatbush YMCA was great because it was a big open space, but it was a challenge around the workshops, right? And also around access for people with limited mobility. Now, again, with the idea that we may be doing the workshops prior to the meeting, if we can get community organizations to buy into doing that, is it possible to look? I like Brooklyn College, and I didn't realize the Midwood gymnasium was like right next to Subo. Is it possible to look into either Midwood or with Brooklyn College to utilize? I see Sean shaking her head no. That means it may have been a hurdle already or approached already. But like, looking for a space that's more open because it allows for better flow. Versus, Suba, which is great because we get the space, for free and it can be worked the right way, but it is not as big as, let's say, the Flatbush Y, which allows for a lot better flow when it comes to the kids being able, or the youth rather, being able to navigate the organizations and the tables.
Okay, we don't get that space for free. We paid for the Subo space.
We don't know. I thought we did.
No.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, I mean it's discounted, but it wasn't free. It was a lot less than LaFrac. But the high schools are out of the question, partly because we can't get into the school soon enough or early enough to set up, and because there was discussion in the back about, students being funny about other people's turf. So I think the high schools are out of question. The Flatbush Y we could revisit, but we would need a heck of a lot more volunteers willing to do physical labor in setting up the tables. Because I think, Carl and I have done a lot of that in the past. It's just it's a lot of physical work to use the Y. But I think overall, I'm getting into the weeds where I don't need to do. Your overall suggestion that we review possibilities of other spaces that are more open for a better flow is a point well taken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Dane. So Elizabeth, I see your hand up. You're up.
Yeah, just kind of relating to the flow. I think that one of the things that was sort of hard when I was working the kind of the welcome booth that was on the 6th floor was just that there were things both up and down from there as well. So I think that, you know, if we can, even if we're in the same space or something, if we can just start on one floor that's either the top or the bottom and just keep routing people up or down, that might work better. And we can, you know, make easier kind of signs that say like continue this way instead of like go this way for this and that. And I think it'd just be a little easier because, you know, some people really wanted to talk and just be like, what's going on here? We could give them the lay of the land. And I think they got it really well. And other people were just like, here's where everything is. So I'm going in. And then there was no, you know, maybe, you know, I think we tried to catch them and say, you know, please continue here and here, but just easier if it's shorter.
Yeah, agreed.
Where to go.
I struggled to avoid using the downstairs beautiful mock interview room, but we couldn't squeeze it in otherwise. And I still feel like the organizations in the penthouse really didn't get the foot traffic, that they were like sort of second tier organizations. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page that that's where there's room for improvement for sure. Flow, man.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that follow-up on the flow, Elizabeth. Always appreciated. Give me a second. Let me check the chat. I don't see any other hands up. And so does anyone have any other Oh, Sean, here we go. I knew it. Here we go. What's up?
I put my hand up on a totally different matter though. So if you were going to make some wrap-up remarks, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll jump into what I was going to say.
Sure, yeah, I was just doing a last call just in case there was anyone who hadn't raised their hand, but they, you know, had either posted something in the chat or there was something that just popped in their head that they do want to share with the group. Okay. I don't see yeah, I don't see or hear anything else. So Sean, the floor is yours.
I just want to sort of make a mini announcement and then I'll spread the word beyond this group, but this is just my first opportunity to say that there is a migrant shelter that is opened up on Coney Island Avenue, 928, the Best Western Hotel. This was sent in an email, I don't remember what day last week because I was out of the office. And it was sent by DSS after the fact. They had already moved families in. So it will shelter 67 families. We have reached out to DSS because Sarah Skloff from the office has volunteered for several years working with families seeking asylum in mostly Spanish-speaking communities. So she's offered to put together resources and even go and answer questions. I put Mo Rasby from COPO in touch with DSS, and he actually walked down there to see if he could figure out what their needs were for, you know, clothing and school supplies and that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of a hurdle because it has to go through DHS, but we're trying to overcome that. There will be there is a question in the chat. I'm not 100% sure, but it's my understanding that most of the families will be Spanish-speaking families. I'm also reaching out to Father Perry to you know, make a bridge to houses of worship in the area. And yeah, there's going to be an organization that will be the provider, but it's not in place yet. So the families are moving in before the provider is in place. So now DHS is the direct provider until that happens. That organization is called, I think, People Path. Does that sound right, Joanne?
People First.
it's People First, People Path. It's an organization I had never heard of, and Joanne Googled it, and they're from Staten Island. So, I always get a little bit concerned when they're going outside of the community to support within the community. But we've got COPO there as a backup plan, and we will. And yeah, that's the Father Perry. I know he's not at that church anymore, but I am in touch with him. So anyway, I just wanted to try to, in the spirit of transparency, just let you all know that that is there, and we are working to do what we can to be supportive of the families.
So Sean, thank you very much for that heads up. And just reconfirming, you said the address was what, 928 Coney Island, or okay, got it, 928
Yeah,
Coney
it's the
Island.
Best Western.
Okay.
Thank you, Yvette. I'll reach out. We're probably going to go to St. Rosa Lima because it's the closest church, but I'll reach out on Our Lady of Refuge. Thank you.
Definitely. And then, yeah, as we know more definitely about what resources or things they need, right, with the various organizations and services, then yeah, please let
I
us know.
just want to substantiate Sean's. It is People Path. I apologize. It's People Path.
Okay.
And when I did a quick Google, it looked like they were a nonprofit from Staten Island.
Okay.
Mo Rasby hadn't heard of them either, but we'll be supportive in any way that COPO can be.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much for that update. That's important, and definitely wish those families the best when they do arrive, right? So
Yeah.
okay.
And Carl, your people, DOE, they've been there. So they're
Mhm.
working on placements, and I
Yep.
made sure that they, understood with PS 217 so close and so well situated to work with students who speak languages other than English and who
Mhm.
are have different educational and emotional needs. Like they're sitting pretty for that. So
Yep.
I don't know if what their space availability is, but anyway, we'll see where they go.
Definitely. Cool. Awesome. And so I don't see, any other hands up. And so unless anyone objects, that concludes tonight's committee meeting. And
No
so
objection.
excellent. And so folks, as always, thank you very much for your time and your help and your support. I appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks all.
Sean, did you see my comment in the chat?
Yes, I did, and I will if I think of something. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night, all.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night, Dawn Marie.
Bye.